I'm Michelle Sook and you're watching Spice of Life. As usual, we'll present to you several spicy segments in today's program. So now let's go over to the first segment of our show.
Hello and welcome to our face-to-face segment. I'm Chandi Pereira. Well, today you're going to meet a very prominent figure from India with our program, and he is the former Indian High Commissioner to Fiji, who's actually returning back to India after the end of his term, and that is Mr. Ajay Singh. Mr. Ajay Singh, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Well, can you please tell us, our viewers, a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I have a four-generation relationship with Fiji. My great-grandparents went to Fiji in 1885 as indentured laborers. My grandfather was born there, 1888, and they returned to India. Then my grandfather went back. He was amongst the first group of Indians taken into the civil service there, and he served for about 17 years in the service and then returned to India. My father, who was born in India, joined the civil service, and after retiring from the civil service, he was the first Indian High Commissioner posted to Fiji after Fiji became independent, and he was there for about 5 years, a little over 5 years. As far as I'm concerned, my background is in journalism. I worked in India as one of the editors in Hindustan Times. I worked for India Today. Then I moved on to politics. I was in the Legislative Council of Uttar Pradesh, then elected as Member of Parliament from Agra, where my ancestral village is. I was a member of the Council of Ministers, Junior Minister for Railways, and then later on as the High Commissioner of India and Fiji. So that is generally the background.
Well, that is such an interesting and a very a story that I would really admire. Like, you had your father actually being the Indian High Commissioner to Fiji, and you became the Indian High Commissioner to Fiji later on.
That's right. It's a very, very rare occasion that something like this happened, and I did make a little bit of history in that sense. But the other connection is that my wife is from Fiji. We were married in Fiji 30 years ago. She belongs to a very prominent Indo-Fijian family in Fiji. My father-in-law was a pioneer in the transport business. He set up the biggest transport company, Pacific Transport, and he was a very religious person. He was the founding president of the Shri Pratinidhi Sabha, which is the biggest Hindu religious organization in Fiji. There are schools named after him, and he helped in setting up of temples, schools, and there must be hundreds of students whom he helped financially in their academic pursuits. So he was a philanthropist and a very well-known figure.
See, in that sense, you are actually a true Indian Fijian, which...
well, I would say that I have been very privileged to have both parts of it in me.
And in
Fijian Indian as well as Indian Indian.
In fact, I hear you belong to one of the two known families, rather Gurmit families, who went back to India and resumed their lives over there.
No, there were quite a few, not too many actually, but there were others also who went back. But the vast majority stayed back in Fiji for the simple reason that they were very young when they were brought to Fiji, and they had in some ways cut their relations with their villages, their families in Fiji in India when they came to Fiji. And on top of it, they had put in the 10 best years of their life in the Girmit system. So for them to go back again was a very difficult proposition. So most opted to stay on with the life that they had been living. After Girmit, they got land on tenancy, and they built their lives in Fiji.
So you were actually the only family who came back to Fiji after returning to India as a girmitiya, isn't it?
That's right. My grandfather, who was born in Fiji, came back. My father came to Fiji, and I came to Fiji. So we have 4 generations who have been to Fiji, back to India, and then back.
Kept coming back. And you also found a wife in Fiji.
That's right. It was very interesting because when we got married and went to India, my wife was talking to a shopkeeper and he asked her where she was, because in India we can tell each other from our accents. And he asked her, she said she was from Fiji. Now, he hadn't heard of Fiji, so the usual long explanation of where Fiji is. And he was very bemused. He eventually said to her that, there are so many millions of girls here and he had to go 12,000 miles to find a wife. He was puzzled. But the fact is that, yes, I met my wife in India, in Fiji. Although we were both doing the same course in Delhi University at the same time, we had common friends, but we never met. We met in Fiji. And there is a traditional viewpoint that the Fijians are very simple people and the Wali people are the Indians from India. And actually, my father used to live in India House, which is the official residence of the High Commissioner. And I used to take great fun in pointing out the spot where I proposed to my wife in India House, where we were living till recently.
Okay.
And I gave her the usual line that I am her tall, dark and handsome prince from across the seven seas, that she should marry me and I'd take her to a land of wonders. And she said yes.
Wow,
and I couldn't believe it, you're right. I couldn't believe it. She said yes.
You could claim to be that.
Yes,
of course, no
well,
problems
I don't
there.
know.
But of course, that is such a beautiful story. And
It's true.
Yeah. So apart from finding your wife and her this wonderful story, tell me, how was your experience as a High Commissioner later on?
My
in
experience
Fiji?
was, I'll tell you, because after we got married, we went back to India, but we kept coming back to Fiji. But when people asked me in Fiji the same question that you just asked me, I found some differences, that Fiji had changed a lot. And certain things were very obvious. There was a much greater racial divide than I remember from 30 years back. And the fact that generally people had drifted apart. And many families had moved to New Zealand, Australia, US and Canada, and there was a general deterioration in the civil service and the services all around, which in the early 70s, and Fiji was considered one of the countries with the best of infrastructure and the services, health, education, all these sort of things, and was expected to really move up into a land of prosperity and multi-religious, multicultural sort of a society. Unfortunately, that didn't happen.
So you think it's probably partly due to the racial dividends happening in Fiji?
Yes,
at the
I
moment?
think that is partly the reason, racial divide, but it is also the fact that Fiji has had a history of upheavals and political instability. So it is again facing a certain crisis and going through a crisis. But I have a lot of faith in the people of Fiji, because whenever you have hurricanes, cyclones, you have political upheavals, the people of Fiji come together through their perseverance, their hard work. They bring back society to normalcy and back on the path to development.
There,
and
which is a
progress.
positive thing to look forward to.
Yeah.
And that was the end of the first segment of our show. Well, we will now take a short break and return with more. Welcome back. You're watching Spice of Life. We'll now continue with the second part of our program.
And tell me, what are your future plans now that you're leaving Fiji as a High Commissioner?
Well, I go back to doing what I was doing earlier, which is I will be back in politics, and I do write for various papers, and I have my commitment to various television networks for political programs and things. So I'll go back to doing that. And I have my village land and so on and so forth. So I'll be back to what I was doing before I came to Fiji.
So you love your television, that's the thing you're looking
yes,
forward to.
Yeah.
And also your political work, which would keep you going.
For a person in public life like me, publicity is the most important thing. You have to be in the limelight. Otherwise, people tend to forget you.
Well, I doubt that whether people will forget you. But tell me, when we spoke about the girmitiyas and the Indians, how close they are and everything, are there any plans at the moment with the Indian government, which is in progress, to give to make this connection better
The Indian government has been focusing on this part of our heritage, which is the Indian diaspora. And for the first time, we have an entire ministry in the government devoted to overseas Indian affairs, which is developing a whole lot of schemes and programs for the people of Indian origin who have settled all over the world. For example, we are having a university, is one of the proposed plans, and then we have quotas in universities and very, very prestigious colleges where it is very difficult getting admission, but we have quotas for descendants of girmitiyas and overseas Indians. And there are other schemes in the pipeline. We already have the PIO system, person of Indian origin, for the visa.
Okay.
So in the near future, there'll be more developments on this kind, because India is, in a very major way, focusing on its diaspora. And it's a two-way thing, because people of Indian origin, whichever country, wherever they've settled, their loyalties, their commitment is to their own adopted country and society.
Right.
But the link, the ancestral, the cultural, the historical link remains. The emotional link remains. And people of Indian origin who are settled all over have contributed to the massive growth of the Indian economy. And so it's a two-way thing.
Two-way thing, it has to happen. And people-wise, do you think this connection, this whatever's government doing is going to enhance the connection between the Indians and girmitiyas?
Oh yes. The descendants of the girmitiyas are the people on whom the major focus is, because in India we look at it from 2 points. One is the girmitiyas, the people who went under the indentured system. So now, as far as the girmitiyas are concerned, you're talking about 5th, 6th generation now.
That's right, yes.
Then there are the people who went after independence, in the 50s and 60s, who were basically teachers, lawyers, technicians, scientists, people in the educational field. And it is their children and grandchildren who are now the focus of the second wave. So for all this, India has this overseas Indian ministry, and they are looking at ways and means of maintaining and strengthening this relationship between India, the motherland, and its diaspora, the children outside.
Because unlike your family, who was very special, that who had the opportunity to go back and forth and remain both Indian and Fijian, not like everybody had that opportunity.
Yeah. No, but there is a strong emotional bond between the people of Indian origin and India, and it's not limited just to Bollywood.
And also look at the cricket team. Wherever you are, you would cheer the Indian cricket team.
Yeah, and then clothes, music, diet, fashion, designs.
It's a culture. It's live in you. That's right. Well, thank you very much for your time today. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. And we wish you all the best with all your future endeavors, whichever you're planning to take, whether it's television or politics or whatever comes along your way.
Thank you very much, Chandi. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be able to share my thoughts with your viewers. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ajay Singh, that you spent your time in our studio today sharing your views with us. And also, if you happen to be again traversing through Sydney again, we'd love to catch up with you. Well, that brings us to the end of today's Face to Face. Hope you enjoyed it. You probably remember in the last week you met Guru Dev Charan, who was organizing a fundraiser, a ghazal program, a ghazal evening in order to help the Hindu village temple in Camps Creek. Last week we had so many responses. People actually enjoyed the ghazals quite a bit. So we thought we'll have another ghazal this week. Let's go have a look.
हमारा दिल सवेरे का सुनहरा जाम हो जाए हमारा दिल सवेरे का सुनहरा जाम हो जाए चरागों की तरह आँखें जले और शाम हो जाए हमारा दिल सवेरे का
have to say, ghazals are beautiful. No matter where you hear them, it's so absolutely beautiful. And I have to say, Guru does a very good job with ghazal. It's a beautiful voice. Well, I'm planning to be there on this event. It's a noble event, it's a fundraiser. So if you want to be there on that evening, please contact the organizers on the details on the screen.
That brings us to the end of our program today. For more information on Spice of Life, please contact Satish Rai. And until next week, it's goodbye from us.